We're going to do a small video today on how to change the clutch in your Honda Civic or Acura Integra. It'll be the same. We'll try to show you the steps the best we can using my red hatch. This transmission is obviously a little bit different than what you guys might have, being that I have this all-wheel drive. But we'll show the steps anyway, and they'll be all about the same. The biggest difference will be this is a cable shifted transmission like a K-series or an Accord would be, but we'll go ahead and show you the different steps that involves. So the first step is to get the car in the air, which we've done. Remove both front tires, remove the oil out of the transmission, just catch it and keep it if it's fresh or it doesn't have a lot of miles on it, and then we're going to remove the axles, and we will pick up from there and show you guys what to do after that. We got the tires off. I'm getting ready to drain the fluid. To drain the fluid from a Honda transmission, there's going to be a little fitting right here. You just take your 3/8 wrench, put it right in, and drain the fluid out. I'm just catching it in this clean pail. Right now what we're doing is taking the axle nuts off, ball joints, and the wishbone bolt here. So cotter pins out, take off the ball joint bolt, take out this bolt here. That'll let you drop down. Once you hit right here with a hammer a bunch of times to break the ball joint loose, then you'll drop this down, pop the axles with a small pry bar. On this side of a Honda B series, you have a jack shaft instead. So the jack shaft unbolts from the back of the block with 3 12mm, and it slides right out of the tranny. First we'll separate the axle from the jack shaft by hitting here with a small sledgehammer and knocking the axle out. So axles will be out, fluid will be drained, and we'll pick up from there. Okay, we've got the axles out. I gotta take the jack shaft or mid shaft out yet. That'll be 3 12mm bolts to the back of your block. Those of you with a normal Civic or Integra are going to have a rod shifter that's going to come up and hook to the tranny right in here. You're going to have to undo the rod shifter. Mine's a cable tranny, so that'll all be up top for me. Obviously, I also have a transfer case here, which you won't. You don't often have to remove the exhaust, but if you're depending on how your exhaust is set up, it may block. It may end up blocking some of your bell housing bolts, like this one. You have to take that out. You got to take this dust cover off. So dust cover, bottom bell housing bolts. Right there's the other one. So those 2 bolts will be out of the way. Undo your shifter if it's underneath the car, and jack shaft out of the way. And that's the next steps. We'll pick up from there. Doing the last of the bell housing bolts, regardless of what Honda transmission, single cam, double cam, twin cam, CRV, whatever, there'll be bell housing bolts around the top, 17mm. Your starter, CRV, the starter's in the front. I also believe the cords are on the front. Regular Hondas will be on the back. Undo your shifter, unplug your speedo cable, tuck the wire out of the way. Get everything kind of cleared back. This is unhooked, right? Undo your battery, obviously, for your starter. There's a ground wire here that we have to do yet. That'll be about it. Undo the ground there then. This is kind of going to get tucked back in. We'll move this back into here. And underneath then, you just have your tin shield, your axles. There's 2 bell housing bolts underneath. And then a 3rd bolt for the rear mount that comes through the back side underneath. Very simple. There's one of the bell housing bolts. There's the other. There's the mount. Your mount may have more than one there. You may have 2. Like I said, the principle will be the same for everybody, no matter what you are with a Honda. It's just the order everything's in will be slightly different. So that's it. We have everything off. Tin shield's off. You see, I was able to leave my exhaust on. Just undid it there and dropped it down to get my transfer case out and get myself some more room. But as soon as he is finished with the top bell housing bolts, we will. You can see the transmission's already separating. Right here, it's already starting to separate. So he must have all the bolts out and loose. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna put the camera down. We're gonna lower this tranny out of there, and I'll show you the next step then to changing your clutch. Thing then to do for the last step, you have to take this last mount out. is we stuck some blocks of wood between the jack and the transmission just to hold the weight temporarily. We'll then remove the bolts for this mount, lower it down to take the mount off completely, get it out of our way. The way your mount bolts to the transmission will vary by model. And then, we will lower the engine down at an angle. The mount that's back there, along with the mount that's right here, will hold all the weight on their own. You won't need anything to suspend it. It works very well. That's taken in consideration that we've also taken this mount off here. I think I showed you that earlier. This mount will stay on, and that'll also help hold it. So that's our next step right now. Take out the rest of these bolts, lower it down a little bit, get this mount out of the way, and then we're going to lower it down at an angle so the tranny will clear the subframe. And then we're just going to slide the transmission off and lower it down onto the ground. And it'll be on to changing the clutch. Now will be to zip off the pressure plate. In this case, ours is using 6mm Allens. And two left. There we go. So we got all the Allens out. Now you pop your pressure plate off. It'll be held onto some dowels. You may need to convince it with a straight edge screwdriver around the edges a little. Just work your way around. Watch that disc, it's going to fall out with it. There we go. There you go, there you get your disc and your pressure plate out. So this will be what we'll be replacing. The old worn out disc and pressure plate. My flywheel's relatively new. I don't know if I'll have it turned or not. I might take and have it turned quick tomorrow to give it a nice flat fresh surface. The pilot bearing feels decent yet, but you should always put the new one in with your new kit anyway. So we'll end up taking these bolts all the way out, popping the flywheel off, getting the flywheel freshened up, and then changing that pilot bearing, and that's where we'll pick up then. Okay, so flywheel's back, all freshly turned. Hondas use a stepped flywheel, meaning that there's a step right here. Make sure whoever you take it to is capable of doing a stepped flywheel. Clutch kit came. I've been doing the Honda stuff for a long time, and I am going to say, even though I never advertise for the most part, that when it comes to your Honda, nothing beats a comp clutch. Nothing. I've tried them all. The pedal feel for their stage 4, stage 5 clutches is barely stiffer than stock, and they grip amazingly. Well over 500 horse with ease. So here we got a stage 5 this time around. This was a stage 4 comp disc that I had in it, and the stage difference between a stage 5 and a stage 4 is just the disc. It goes down to a 4-puck for the stage 5. So same pressure plate, I believe. However, I did have, as some of you will notice, a spec clutch in the pressure plate in the car. And you're going to say, well, why did you have a comp disc and a spec pressure plate? Well, last time I had the tranny out to fix some stuff, these were on back order. Nobody could get me one. So I dug through and used the best used disc I had around and the best pressure plate I had laying around, and that got me through for a few weeks until these got off back order, and now it's time to stick it in. So anyway, the step's going to be to reinstall the flywheel, and then we're going to get to taking the clutch out of the plastic here and installing that. And once that's all in and done, it's a matter of just putting the tranny back in. So we'll pick up there. Wheels on. Torque the bolts. Always put a drop of Loctite on those, because if those back out on you, that can be bad news. Got a new pilot bearing in. So now we're going to use the alignment tool and put the clutch disc and pressure plate on, and then torque the bolts for the pressure plate, and then we'll pick up from there. Transmission is back in. Simple when you have two people. One guy puts it on his chest underneath, bench presses up, other guy leans over the fender here and pulls up. You line everything up, shove it in, put some bell housing bolts in, torque them down. Next we'll be getting this back mount put back in, tranny up, and then reverse lights hooked up, speedometer cable hooked up, shifter cables for me because mine are on the top. Yours will be probably a rod shifter underneath. And then it's just going to be axles, mid shaft, dust cover, exhaust pipe, ball joints, wishbones. These are the wishbones, by the way. And that's it. Put some fluid back in it, put the tires back on, and we're up and running back in business. So far, literally, oh, no exaggeration, probably an hour so far. And that's including stopping to shoot the video, and we're not really busting our ass or anything. I mean, granted, we've done this a lot of times, so we know exactly which tool to grab and what order to do it in. But, I mean, you can change your oil and do brakes and stuff like that. You can definitely do a clutch on a Civic. They're cake. We'll pick back up here with the finished install. Okay, so last step, of course, is car outside on the ground, tires on, torqued, fluid back in. If you catch your fluid and put the same fluid back in, you still want to check and make sure because it might have been a little low, or you might have lost some. So top that off too in the transmission. Take out the car and test drive it and make sure everything works good, which is what we just did. And that's about it. Honda transmission removal and install. Can't express enough how simple and easy it is. No need to be afraid of it. Every make and model will vary slightly, but if you get yourself a Chilton's manual or something and just kind of use it as a basic guide, sometimes they throw in a lot of extra steps that aren't needed. I showed you basically what needs to be done on 99% of all Civics, from EF to EGs to EKs. So that's it. Hope this video helps some of you when it comes time to change your clutch.